I want to say thank you for to all of you for being here and for taking the time to dive with me into shadow work and exploring what shadow work is. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me. If I have to introduce myself, my name is Xavier Dagba. I'm a transformational coach, and I love saying trauma informed transformational coach. And what I love about what I do is in my own journey, I found out that very often attempting to transform our lives without taking into consideration the parts of us that need healing can often be challenging. It's as if we spin in circles. And this is what truly led me in my own journey, personal journey, on the trajectory of bringing together healing and transformation. Because very often, when we disown one in order to embody the other, it doesn't work. When we ignore one in order to embody the other, it really doesn't work. So, the job that I've been trying to do is really to couple both because it is very challenging to anchor in your body the energy of love and joy when you are still holding to some degree shame, sadness, anger, grief, maybe. So, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be diving into shadow work. We're going to see what it is. We're going to see how you can begin to um, work with it. And this is a workshop that I've given before that gives you an introduction to how you can begin to understand what is going on within you truly and how you can begin to just work with it, really work with it so that you can claim more of your, I want to say, wholeness, so that you can feel more in integrity. And integrity means here entirety, meaning claiming all the parts of yourself in order to feel whole again. So I have a beautiful presentation to share with you, and we're going to go through that presentation. So if you are here on Zoom with me, um, please feel free to type in all your questions. I'm going to do my best to address them, as best I can. If you are here on Zoom with me, type in all your questions as I share the screen and as we dive into this. So let's do it. This, share, and then I am going to start this. Hmm. All right. So here's the presentation that I have for you. And I really want to begin by giving context about what you will receive here. The first thing is understanding what the shadow is, once again, because some of you might already know, some of you maybe don't know. Understanding what shadow work is, understanding why shadow work is important and how you can begin to practice it. And we are going to really link it to understanding your emotions and working with your emotions. The other thing that we're going to do is really diving again into triggers. And the reason why I wanted to go through this presentation again is because we are in the month of triggers right now. The holiday month is a month of triggers because usually we tend to go back to our family, we tend to meet them again. And as much as families are places of intense, sometimes big love, as much as they are supposed to be places where we receive love, we get nurtured. They are also the places where our initial core wounding happens. They are the places where we have disowned quite a bit of our power. So very often we go about our lives, we leave our houses, we go and create something for ourselves, and then we meet them for during the holiday time, and it happens that we just get triggered all over again. They keep projecting an old version of who we used to be, and triggers happen. So we're going to dive into that. So first, what is the shadow? And the shadow is really the internal storehouse of the parts of you that you have disowned. And simply put, I'm gonna say this: when we grow up, we are in a household with our parents. They have rules. right? They have rules there. And some of these rules might be don't get too loud, or don't get too angry. You don't scream, or you can't be sad here, or some behaviors that you might be showing up are a little bit too much for your dad, for your mother, for your caregivers. And what they do is sometimes these behaviors are met with a withdrawal of attention or a punishment. And very often when we see that, we might happen to literally disown parts of ourselves because mom didn't like it, dad didn't like it, therefore I'm going to push against this part of me. This is how we begin to create a shadow, right? This is how we begin to create a shadow. And what shadow work is really to is the journey of claiming again the parts of you that you disowned, that you denied. And the intention here is to look at healing as claiming your wholeness. And really looking at healing as claiming your wholeness. Whenever we create a shadow or we happen to go through some trauma, there is an inner divide that happens. A part of you stays kind of frozen in time, and you start coping, you start evolving, you start using whatever you can use so that you don't feel the initial pain, so that you don't feel the abandonment that happened. And therefore, you create some separation here. Shadow work is really the work of going into the parts of you that were denied and claiming them again, bringing them to the forefront of your consciousness so that they stop running the show in the background. And this is really the point. The parts of you that you disown or suppress, they do not go away. Very often, they are still in your consciousness and they are still running the show from the background, in a part, more from the subconscious part of yourself. So shadow work is the practice of just unveiling the shadow, inviting it into the light of your consciousness. So the experiences that cause us to create a shadow, and I mentioned them: trauma, suffering, withdrawal of love and affection by our caregivers, emotional neglect, punishment. Intense punishment can create us to also create a shadow. If we have a behavior that is punished over and over and over and over again, very often we tend to suppress it, and this is how we begin to form the shadow. Now, I want to move a little bit further. Shadow work is really the practice of making the unconscious conscious. And this is really what is at stakes here. We make the unconscious conscious so that you can be at a place where you can have conscious control, conscious leadership. And really, what I love to say is leading your life from your heart, not from your wounds. Very often we respond to situations in life from an unconscious standpoint. We respond to situation from a place of not wanting to feel the initial wounding rather than a full, actualized, present perspective. And this is really what shadow work offers. You get to integrate so that you can make a conscious decision fully in the now moment. All right, let's move on. And if you have questions that come up, I'm inviting you to just leave them in the chat. We're going to go through all of this. And I just want to talk about why shadow work is important. It gives you more conscious control, just what I just said. You stop being hijacked by your own patterns. We often talk about self sabotaging, and where people would call it self sabotaging, I would just say this is a self protection mechanism. There is something about what you are trying to experience that feels unsafe, and therefore you are hijacked by the shadow as a protective way. Um, so, doing shadow work will also help you address your destructive patterns, self betrayal, self sabotaging, that just like I was saying. And the outcome is of doing shadow work is really feeling deeper inner peace, really deeper inner peace. The purpose of shadow work is really creating self acceptance, generating that self acceptance. And this is really what is at stake here. So, I'm inviting us to keep moving forward with the presentation. Um, Now, beginning shadow work, here are a few awareness prompts that I really invite you to dive in. And if there is something that comes up for you here, I'm inviting you to leave that in the chat so that we can look at it. So the first question is, what behaviors would cause your caregivers to withdraw their affection from you growing up? And really to ponder that, what would get your parents, your mom, your dad, to take their affection away from you? Very often there is a shadow lingering there because usually we decided, okay, I'm going to disown this part of me. If it gets me to be punished all the time, if it gets me to experience the withdrawal of affection, I'm going to disown this part of you. And this is usually what is pointing what you need to reclaim. What are the traits that you find less admirable about your parents, about your caregivers? Very often, we might happen to see a behavior that we think is despicable about our parents or that we don't like, and then we push it away. I'm going to take an example. My dad used to be very angry when I was younger, like sometimes very angry. And, we would receive beatings from my dad. And I coupled anger with aggression all the time. That was my association. Anger and aggression they go together. And this is how I was treating my anger. So I was suppressing it. I never allowed myself to really step into that until very, much later in life. So this is really the invitation here. The more you begin to ponder, what was I punished for? What would get me to receive a withdrawal of affection? The more you can begin to see, oh, these are the parts of me that I really have disowned. What emotions were welcomed, what emotions weren't welcomed. This is how you can begin to point out. Now, something that I want to share with you is actually these three mirrors here. And these are ways you can begin to decipher within yourself what is really going on. What is really going on when you get triggered by somebody else? And let me put things into perspective here. Triggers are your shadow calling for integration. When we get triggered by somebody, when we get triggered by a situation, what is actually truly going on is there is something that they are reflecting to you that wants integration, reconciliation with you. There is a part in your shadow that needs reconciliation with you. And how can you actually get clear on what is going on here? I want to offer to you these three mirrors. The first one is a mirror of denial, which is I see something within this person, and somehow I know this behavior is also existing within me, but I hate it about myself. So there is a huge denial that is going on here. And the invitation, when we see that we are in denial, this behavior here is also here within me, and I'm refusing to acknowledge, to welcome, I'm refusing to have compassion with myself. The invitation there is first to practice self compassion. And an example is very often people who tend to complain the most, they despise being in the presence of other people who complain because they are reflected that behavior that they dislike about themselves. Another one is a mirror of judgment. The mirror of judgment might be you are seeing a behavior in somebody else that you just judge tremendously, that you just judge tremendously. And I'm inviting you to look at the whole human collective. We are each other, we are capable of the exact same things. If you see somebody that is doing something that you judge tremendously, the potential to be able to do the same thing if you had the same conditioning is also present within yourself. So there is a bridge of understanding that is missing, a bridge of empathy that is missing, a bridge of compassion that is missing. Does it mean that you have to love what they are doing? No. Does it mean that you have to agree? No. But when you can bridge it with understanding and compassion, even the worst behaviors, you can stand from a place of like, I can see how somebody can begin to show up this way, even though I do not agree with the behavior. So it soothes yourself a little bit. That's the mirror of judgment. And we often get triggered by a lot of things that we judge powerfully. The last mirror of the mirror of envy, where we tend to see things in others that we actually envy. Maybe somebody is so self-confident. Maybe somebody is just like having a relationship that you are aspiring to, but you don't think it is available for you. So envy is a huge mirror of possibility, of potential. And when you are looking at envy, when you find yourself being envious of somebody else, the invitation is really to begin to cultivate that possibility within yourself. And how can you do that? You can begin to celebrate them. That's an invitation here. So these are three mirrors that can help you decipher, I am being triggered in this now moment. What is happening? What about this situation is causing the feeling that I'm experiencing? Is it because I this behavior is present within me and I'm just denying it? Is it because I'm judging powerfully what is going on here and therefore I'm triggered? Am I lacking understanding? Am I lacking compassion? Am I lacking empathy? Is it possible to have empathy about something that is deep, this maybe ugly? Is it possible? And if you ask yourself the question, some deep within you, the answer is yes, in my experience. And when you can tap into that place, you reclaim that place, and then you are able to stand in a place of compassion, even if you still do not agree. Now, the mirror of envy, do I see something here that I envy? If yes, how can I begin to practice possibility to cultivate the belief that this is also available for myself? And when you do that, you bring at the forefront the part of you that is holding on to the belief that this is possible for you too. So, this is how you can really ease your way into shadow work and begin to ask yourself, how is this possible for me? How is this possible for me? Now, just like I said, triggers are invitation for from your shadow for inner reconciliation. And triggers are not meant to be seen as bad or wrong. They are just calls. They are just a bell that a part of you is ringing. So, and about healing in general, I just want to say the purpose of healing is not to become trigger free. The purpose of healing is really to get practice at navigating the triggers with more ease and flow so that in this now moment when a new shadow shows up, a new trigger shows up, you have the capacity to be present with it, understand the invitation, and really dive deeper into the healing that is available. Now, let's move an example of a trigger, and this is something that I like, and how it actually builds, how the shadow is actually calling you. And here I give an example of a woman that um her name is Sam, and when she was younger, her mom had special needs, so her mom needed quiet in the house when Sam was very young, so she was never allowed to be overexpressive, joyful, scream, run everywhere in the house like usually kids would do. So she suppressed it because if she didn't, it would be met with punishment, maybe from her father or even her mom. Her mom would be angry. So she suppressed the expressive, the joyful part of her. And now, Sam, we are in the middle of the pandemic. She's working from home and has a young kid that is just overexpressive, running all over the house, and she is getting triggered and tries to control him, doesn't understand what is going on. When she is calm, she understands he's just a kid having fun. It does make sense that he would want to have fun, and therefore the next time he gets that way again she feels triggered. This is an example of a shadow calling, and we often look at shadows as dirty, parts of us and stuff like that? Not necessarily. Very often there is gold in there, her own joy. And Sam, this is a real example. She used to be the example of the mother that was just like so angry, frustrated about everything, taking things too seriously, and never ever having fun. And claiming that joy again is what she needed in order to feel that she can enjoy life again. So that's how the shadow is showing up to triggered. So now I would like to move to um, a few reasons why we often get triggered. A few reasons why we often happen to feel all of this, and this is really the story behind it. So we can happen in a situation to be feeling rejected or abandoned. We feel dismissed. We feel ignored. We feel denied. We feel helpless. We feel blamed or shamed by someone, you know, and sometimes blamed or shamed maybe for something that we don't think we were responsible for. So I'm just inviting you to begin to understand these are the ways that trigger me. Something that still triggers me to this day. When I am blamed for something that I didn't do, it still happens to trigger me because when I was younger, my brothers used to do stuff and I was the younger kid. They used to do stuff and the blame would be put on me. So my dad would come back and without even trying to understand what happened, he would just punish me. So this is a situation that was extremely triggering, and I have to be honest. To this day, when a blame is put on me that I really didn't do, it can happen to bring me there. And now I'm just more practiced at working through it. So I'm inviting you to just decipher what are the things that kind of trigger you, so that you can begin to know your shadow a little bit more. And the more you know your shadow, the more you know how to work with it in order to claim conscious mastery of your now experience. So, I really want us to move on to this part here. Becoming aware of the ways you have been reacting gives you something to work on. It gives you something to work on because very often we are not even aware that we are in a coping mechanism that has been triggered by the projection that we will soon be experiencing something that was so challenging to navigate when we were younger. I'm giving you an example. An example is every time somebody used to do something that would make me feel angry, I would work out and exhaust myself until I had nothing else within to give. So I was using working out as a coping mechanism in order to avoid feeling my anger. I was using training as a coping mechanism in order to avoid being in the presence of my anger. So I was using it to take my attention away from it. So knowing how you respond to your shadow calling, knowing how you have been coping to your shadow calling. Maybe you are in a situation, you're in a conversation, and you get called out, and then you get angry, you get outwardly frustrated. Some people might even happen to get needy after they have been triggered. Some people might turn into pleasers, trying to overcompensate. Overcompensate. Please love me. Please keep loving me. Please let me do whatever I can do for you to keep loving me, and never ever taking a stand for themselves. Others might shut down. Shutting down and withdrawing is something that I did also tremendously. So just knowing the ways that you have been responding, it allows you to understand, oh, this is what I have been doing. This is what I have been doing. Let's find a way around it. Let's find another way of responding here. So these are ways that you can begin to basically cognize your coping mechanisms. And when you are coping, you are not in full consciousness, in full presence, in full awareness. And the invitation is really to come back here. Now, um, also, it is so necessary to give yourself permission in this process to be so radically honest with yourself, because healing happens within the space that radical honesty creates. Healing happens within the space that radical honesty creates. It's as if you want to have an open heart surgery, but you don't want to open your heart, actually. It doesn't work. If you are not willing to open your heart so that you can have the open heart surgery, then the healing is not going to happen. So this is literally the best analogy that I can give you about shadow work. Now I want to bring you through something, through a process that can help you navigate triggers consciously. And before we go there, it is so important to understand working with your emotions. Emotional presence is the key point that is missing for so many people to heal and to transform their situations. Emotional presence, being with the emotion. And I'm inviting you to look at things this way. This is the paradigm that I'm going to give you. If it's resonate with you, you can work with it. If it doesn't, maybe leave it for now and ignore it. I'm inviting you to look at things this way. You are at the same time human and a spirit, if we're going to call it this way. I'm not going to dive too much into the woo woo part, but you are at the same time human and spirit, and there is a mechanism of communication between both. The human has a perspective, and your spirit essence, your soul essence, has a perspective that is usually rooted in unconditional love. Unconditional love. And the emotions are the distance between the perspective of the human and the perspective of of spirit or of your soul. Emotions are the distance between the perspective of the human self and the perspective of the soul. Meaning, when I am feeling when I am feeling joy, when I am feeling love, when I'm feeling optimistic, when I'm feeling happiness, I am as close as it gets to being aligned with my soul. But when I am thinking anything that causes me to feel disempowered, when I'm feeling anything that causes me to feel powerless, then the emotion that are present here, they are emanating divide. And they are emotions like shame, anger, grief, sometimes even rage. So it is constantly your soul giving you feedback. Being able to stay present with the feedback that is being given to you so that you can claim a part of you that feels separate is really the work here. And how can you begin to create? I have a few journaling prompts here that maybe you the people that joined here can receive after this presentation. It's really about asking yourself what emotions were considered good in your household growing up and therefore acceptable, and what are the emotions that were not acceptable. How are you punished for feeling a certain emotions? Understanding that history can liberate you. It can make you see, oh, this is why I don't allow myself to feel angry. And sometimes, in order to navigate the shadow, in order to navigate it so that you can claim a part of you, you need to let yourself experience. And I'm really saying here, experience, not outwardly projecting your anger at some people, but really being in the presence of your anger so that you can truly do that navigation. So, what are the emotions that you have a hard time being with? What are the emotions that you are judging bad? What are the emotions that are wrong? What are the emotions that are not allowed? What are the emotions that are not accepted? The more you narrow the range of emotions that you're allowing yourself to feel, the more life feels bland. And when you extend that circle, you have access to more elevated emotions and at the same time to emotions that are a little bit more challenging to navigate. It's as if a circle is expanding in all directions. And when you are willing to really accept more of joy in your life, you also need to be willing to experience sometimes sadness and grief and sometimes shame, even. Being able to welcome all the emotions is really what is allowing you to deepen your healing, because sometimes you need to navigate shame in order to go claim a part of you that was suppressed. Sometimes you're going to need to navigate grief. Sometimes you're going to need to navigate sadness. Sometimes you're going to need to navigate, you know, anger in order to go there and to claim that reconciliation. Now, I would like to move into something that has the potential to really help you navigate emotions that used to be very challenging for you. And I'm inviting you to really use the power of safety affirmations in your own life. It is safe for me to be present with my anger. It is safe for me to feel my anger without closing my heart. It is safe for me to be in the presence of my anger without turning it into aggression. It's safe for me to feel without shutting down. It is safe for me to feel, period. It is safe for me to be more in the presence of my emotions. It is safe for me to breathe when I feel intense emotions instead of shutting down. So it's just like creating all of this allows you to become the space. It's as if you are giving an instruction to your own consciousness to change the relationship that you are having with an emotion. You are giving an instruction to your consciousness to change the relationship that you have with an emotion. And this is really what I'm inviting you to do. This is a way that you can open the door to being in the presence of something, to being in the presence of an emotion. And when you allow yourself to open the door for emotional presence, you are also opening the door for deeper healing. When you open the door for emotional presence, you are also opening the door for deeper healing. How do you heal it? You feel it. A huge part of healing it is feeling it, is being in the presence of it without identifying with the emotion. This is not what I'm inviting you to do here. You are not saying, I am anger, or I am identifying with the anger. I am experiencing anger. I am experiencing sadness. You are not the emotion. You are the space where the emotion is being witnessed. So that's what I wanted to share here. I give myself permission to practice communicating even when I feel angry, especially for people who used to shut down. It's safe for me to communicate even when I feel anger. It is safe for me to communicate with more grace even when I feel anger. It's as if you are enabling something to sit better within your own consciousness. So, I want to talk about something that is really important when you do this work. And I mentioned it before. I mentioned it just a minute ago. Embodying the observer, meaning standing in a place where you understand that you are not the emotion, you are not your thoughts. You are not the emotions, you are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness where they all arise. You are not your emotions, you are not your thoughts. And the best analogy that I often give to people is this is the sky and the weather. It might look cloudy, it might even be raining, there might be a storm. And at the same time, you are not the storm. If you fly high enough, if you go high enough, what you're going to find out is the sky is blue. The sky is blue regardless of what is going on in this now moment. The sky is blue regardless of the storm that is happening underneath. If you are willing to dive, to fly high enough, you realize that, oh, I am the sky actually. And what is going on? The thoughts, the emotion, the temperature, the pressure, it's all only the weather that is going on here. And embodying that perspective allows you to navigate the emotions with more ease. And it requires presence, just being present. The observer does not create stories, judgments, narratives. The observer sees it for what it is. Oh, right now I am in the presence of anger, and that's okay. Right now I am in the presence of sadness. I am in the presence of. I am not the anger. I am not the sadness. I am in the presence of anger and really observing for what it is. The other one is really accepting. It's that piece saying it's okay that it's here just for now. It's as if you're acknowledging a message. It's as if you're acknowledging feedback. It's as if you are acknowledging communication from your own soul. That the thought pattern, the paradigm of consciousness that you're experiencing right now is not the truth of who you are, which is really acknowledging that feedback and really welcoming it. This is what I'm experiencing right now, and just for now, it is okay. Compassion is also an attribute of the observer, and the way compassion is being spoken here is not creating a statement of unworthiness because of what you are feeling. The story for me used to be, if I'm feeling angry, then I'm not good enough at controlling my emotions. That used to be the story. If I'm angry, then there's something wrong with me. If I'm angry, it means I want to be aggressive, and that was the key. If I'm angry, then I want to hurt people. That wasn't true. It didn't have to be true. I didn't have to make it come true. And changing the story, which is right now I'm experiencing anger, and that's okay, just for now, and breathing through it, and which is the other attribute of the observer, just that wind of life, which is the breath, being in the presence of it as you are welcoming what is within you and practicing it and practicing it as you create that healthy differentiation, not separation, but differentiation between what you are experiencing and who you are. You are not the experience, you are the container for the experience. I hope this is making sense, and I hope you are getting some differentiation and out of all these terms. Sometimes it can feel a tiny bit confusing, but I'm really inviting you to dive in all of this with an open heart, with an open mind, and to really welcome everything that is here. Now, sometimes we happen to get triggered in life and we don't have time to go sit down and ponder everything that is there. And this is what we're going to be finishing with when it comes to this. I want to say theoretical part of the work. Sometimes it happens that you are triggered and you don't have time to go sit down and just to begin to ponder what just happened. When that happens, I'm inviting you to let your breath be the first responder. Let your breath be the first responder. When you notice that, oh, I am getting triggered here, I'm losing it right now, just let your breath take over because it is something that will anchor you in this now moment. If between the trigger and the reaction you give, sometimes that space feels so small, if you can just slide in a deep breath here and expand the space and expand the space and expand the space a little more, even if it takes you 5 seconds, 10 seconds in the middle of a conversation, take your time to breathe. And then you can come back here in a place where you are a little bit more present, and become aware of what you're feeling because this takes you from here and brings you here. Usually, when we get triggered, we run an automatic program right away. Boom, we are in the program and we react, we respond. No, we react, we don't respond. We react or we overreact or we shut down, whatever reaction that is. So it takes you from here and brings you here and become aware of what you're feeling. Feel it a little bit more fully. Dive into it a little bit more fully. Even if in the middle of a conversation it takes you to say, just give me a second, something hit me wrong in what was said here, and I just need to presence it a tiny bit, just a little second. As you dive in there and as you regulate through breathing, and ask yourself in this now moment, and this is really about pondering, do I truly choose to engage in this conversation right now? From and am I really at a place where I'm regulated enough to keep engaging in the conversation in a way that is conscious? Or do I feel really sidetracked? Very often, what I suggest to people is if the trigger is so intense that you find that you have a hard time being coherent again, you have the possibility to say, for something was really off for me about what was said here, and seems like I need more time to address it. It seems like I need more time to work on it. And literally, you have the right to excuse yourself. And that's what I often tell the people. Maybe it doesn't look, maybe you don't need to shut it down, just like withdrawing yourself, but just expressing the need to work a little bit more through what just happened here. And the other thing is, if you feel like you are kind of regulated enough to navigate through all of this, what you can actually do is you can just keep engaging in the conversation. You can keep engaging in the conversation from a place of like more radical honesty. And this is usually what it sounds like when a conversation has gotten triggering. You can literally say, this is a story I'm telling myself about what you just said. This is what I heard. This is what I heard about what was just said here. Am I right? Or am I just creating stories here? And just addressing it from the perspective of radical honesty. This is the story I'm telling myself when I hear you saying this. Is it really what is going on here? And asking for clarity, asking for more understanding, instead of just diving into the assumption that your automatic reaction wants to make you believe. Asking for clarity and really stating your intention, meaning my intention here is not to really create a situation out of all of this, it's just to have more clarity and to understand what is really going on here so that we can find some sort of agreement or whatever. So this is just another way to navigate consciously in real life, which is breathing, being in the presence of what you are feeling, regulating it with your breath, creating spaciousness within yourself, and just engaging again from just mirroring what you received or what you thought you received. This is what I thought I heard. What do you truly mean here? What is really the point here? What is really the intention here? What are we in this conversation for? What are we even fighting about here? And this is how you are coming back to a place of conscious leadership instead of running a pattern again. Conscious leadership instead of running a pattern again. And sometimes I also understand that it is possible that this is not available for you in the moment. The trigger might be so hard, so high, that you basically get lost again and you are not able to think clearly in the now moment. And this is where I invited you to basically, if you can, um, ask for permission or excuse yourself and really taking the conversation. You can communicate that need. I really need to take some space here. And we can dive into this conversation a little later. And because I feel like I am becoming reactive, I want to be respectful to you. I want to be respectful to myself and not dive into a in a huge conflict here because there is deeper healing that is calling you. It is never about the person. It seems like it, of course. It seems like it, they trigger it, but it's truly not about them. It's about what they are reflecting that is within you. It's about what they are calling forward. And if you are willing to receive the gift, I know it sucks. I know it's challenging. I know sometimes it's upsetting. But when you are willing to receive the gift of what is being called forward, then you are claiming your own mastery. And triggers really represent a unique opportunity to deepen your healing, and they open the door to the shadow. That's what they are doing. They are opening the door to the shadow. And when you here is a way that you can create deeper reconciliation after such an intense trigger. The invitation here is really to kind of trace, where did I feel like it for the first time? The way he's making me feel, the way the situation is making me feel. And this last exercise, I am giving it with a lot of caution. What I'm experiencing right now, where did I feel it before? Where did I experience it before? And just to trace it. If you can remember, that's perfect. The point here is to just feel what comes up, nothing else. The point here is to just feel what comes up and nothing else. This is a way that you can use by yourself to just unload a little bit more your limbic system, your emotional body, to just unload it a little bit more from emotions that are not serving you anymore. And when you dive into there, when you trace the feeling, just do not judge yourself if a memory comes up, something that sometimes it appears to be a big feeling, a big emotion. In my case, it used to remind myself sometimes of situations with my brothers where my dad would just come and punish me when I wasn't the one who did the who created the situation. And something that I often ask people to do there: visualize your adult self stepping up in that space. Visualize your adult self stepping up in that space, sitting next to your younger self, and really being with that younger self that didn't have the love, the affection, whatever it was that you didn't have there. And then visualize being together there, visualize giving your heart, visualize giving that younger version of yourself a hug, visualize giving that version of yourself a deep amount of appreciation and validation. And validation sounds like, even though he couldn't investigate more, even though he wouldn't ask more questions to really see if this was your fault or no, there was never anything wrong with you. Even if your brothers didn't want to take responsibility and put the blame on you, there was never anything wrong with you. It didn't mean that you are unlovable. It doesn't mean that you're unlovable. I, the adult self, who I am today, I am here for you. And usually, this is the invitation that is here. Very often, healing looks like that inner reconciliation. And the trigger opens the door. For me, the trigger was opening the door for me to go back in there and see my younger self and having a conversation between me and me so that inner reconciliation can be recreated. And this is where healing happens in my experience. So this is a way you can begin to navigate. You can begin to, when something comes up, just realize what was happening, and now just do the best you can to validate, to feel, to be in the presence of that part of you, and to shower that part of you with love. Visualize your adult self comforting and validating your younger self with phrases such as, I am here. I am here with you right now. It is crazy how we think what we need is for other people to come and save us. We think what we need is for other people to come and love us. But there is something that happens, when we are kids, because of the abandonment of our parent, we also abandoned ourselves. And I'm giving you the example. The child was here, the parent couldn't love the child the way they needed. Therefore, the parent withdrew their affection. And as a kid, what we did was, okay, I'm going to suppress this and I'm going to chase the love. I'm going to suppress it and cope in a way that's going to make me chase the love. And as we do that, this is what we create. This is you, and this is you. You begin to disconnect from a part of yourself and to cope and to cope and to cope and to cope again, chasing something that is here, chasing the love of the parent that is here. So you begin to do that in order to chase it. And therefore, you are creating unconsciously some inner divide. And healing and shadow work looks like doing this once again. That is a journey. This is what it looks like. And in order to do this, sometimes it takes to go through all the emotions that we're stuck in between: the anger, the rage, the sadness, the shame, so that you can claim inner reconciliation. So, this is where I wanted to land. And I know I spoke for a long time, but this is presenting this idea of what shadow work is what I wanted to share with you. And I know we still have a few minutes that are available. So if you have a few questions, if we have a few questions in the chat here right now, I would love to go through the questions if there are a few questions in the chat, and if there is anything that landed for you, anything that you would like some reflection about, if there is any question, I'm just gonna stop the sharing the screen. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen here. Mm, oh, it seems like there have been a lot of questions, and I'm gonna try to go back from the beginning. I'm gonna try to go back from the beginning. This, oh, Miss Chloe wanted me to go a little slower. I'm sorry, I just get to see it right now. Now we have Deborah that says, I'm loving this. I don't feel safe when I feel blamed and accused at work for something I have not done. Oh, I can see you and relate completely with you there. Can you give me an example of a safety affirmation for feeling insecure in a relationship? And the insecurity in a relationship can be related to many things. If I can have more context there, then we can make it a little bit um, more precise. But usually there is a huge fear of abandonment in relationships. And as an example of safety affirmation could look like, it is safe for me to still choose to see myself as worthy, even if this person was to abandon me. It is safe for me to love this person fully, even though I fear that I might be rejected. It is safe for me to show myself a little bit more, even though I feel like I might be abandoned for it. It is safe for me to really stand fully in my authenticity in this relationship. This is an example of what a safety affirmation could sound like about the relationship that you're experiencing. It is safe for me to speak my voice in this relationship. It is safe for me to truly communicate what I need. Even if I feel like it's not going to be fully welcomed, it is safe for me to speak my voice. It is safe for me to communicate my needs. It is safe for me to speak out loud, you know? So that could be an example of a present of an example. That could be an example of how you can literally create safety affirmations. So, and yeah, some people asked about the presentation. Maybe it was a little bit too fast. Yes, I acknowledge that because I wanted to go through um, the material that was here. And now we have a beautiful question from, I think it's from Chloe. What about when someone is genuinely treating you poorly? How do you know? Very often it's very hard to very hard to address, to decipher where the person is coming from. But what you can think about, what you can always trust is what you're experiencing. What you are feeling, what you are in the presence of. If they are treating you really, really poorly, being in there and enduring the way they are treating you is not the invitation here. It is completely in your power, whether they want to treat you poorly or whether it's not their intention. It truly doesn't matter here. If you feel treated poorly, it's your right to set a boundary. It is your right to withdraw yourself if you choose from a situation where you are feeling disrespected. And at the same time, you can still do the work in the background. What about this created so much, was so triggering for me? Is there something about this behavior that you judge? It is very likely that the second mirror of judgment is activated there. When we get treated poorly, we tend to, or when we feel treated poorly, and again, the way and the intention that they had truly doesn't matter what you are feeling here. It is 100% valid. Trying to decipher, was this person trying to hurt me or this person trying not to hurt me? Sometimes it's a little less relevant because you felt the hurt, and that is valid. You felt the hurt, and that is valid. So you can get actually to work through it. And if you refer back to um, what we navigated before, you don't have to stay in the situation where you are hurt. You can set a boundary, you can withdraw yourself. This is in your power. And really owning that again is very necessary at times. So, what comes next is when you are on your own, really reflecting on what did I really experience in the presence of that person? Where is that coming from? What makes them believe that they are entitled to treat me that way? What gives them the impression that this is something that is actually valid? And if you dig a little bit deeper, you're going to find sometimes for people, when we work together, there are experiences where they felt treated poorly by other people, and sometimes, and to some degree, they okayed it. And therefore, you are invited to again create reconciliation with your inner child or with a part of yourself, and going back there and creating some degree of reconciliation with yourself. And this doesn't mean that you're going to condone the behavior. It doesn't mean that you have to go again there and let yourself be abused or feel abused by somebody else. It just means you can dive into a place of feeling more inner peace. And the next time something like that happens, you can stand your ground a little bit stronger, you know, and really share what comes up for you. Um, I am finding it hard to determine whether I am just being triggered and need to do my own work, or whether I am actually experiencing emotional abuse. The question, the answer might be maybe both. Maybe both. You know, maybe you are maybe you are experiencing emotional abuse and it is triggering something that was unresolved. And very often trying to figure out something leaves us in a place where we need, I'm inviting you to think about things this way. We need to hold on to a problem in order to fix it. We need to hold on to a problem. No, that's not the appropriate way. We need to hold on to a problem in order to understand it, in order to figure it out. If you are if you are trying to decipher or to find something in a whole bunch of dirty mess, you need to keep holding the mess in order to like understand what is the structure of the mess. If you want to understand the mess, you need to hold it. You need to pull it. You need to pull it apart. And therefore your hands keep they stay messy. And sometimes releasing the need to try to figure out the whole thing and just working on the essence. If there you feel abused, a boundary might be missing, and you can choose to set the boundary, and at the same time to check in, to just check in with yourself. Is it stemming from some place within me? And to work with it. I hope this gave some um, elements of answer here. And this is for Chloe. I guess it's probably both. Oh, you answered your question. You are amazing. You're brilliant. I guess it's probably both, but the person is so often telling me I can't do things, which is triggering but also unacceptable. Absolutely. And you guessed it really right, at least in my opinion. Um I would suggest that you explore both. Maybe there is an invitation here to claim your sovereignty, claim your power. Sometimes it means saying just, I hear that you think this way, but it is not my experience. And I'm choosing not to make it my experience any longer. That's not how I choose to see myself any longer. That perspective from you is not allowed or welcomed anymore. All right. So people choose their behavior. I'm learning their lesson isn't my problem, but my triggers are my problem. I love it. Yeah, I have to let them get on with it and rise above it. Man, Deborah, I love the way you're writing. Yeah, I love it. Now we have Carla that changed that's who is saying shadow work might bring some resentment towards our caregivers as we might blame them. How can we manage this in a way that it doesn't affect our relationship? It will affect the relationship. This is the baseline in my experience. It will affect the relationship, but maybe not in the way that you're expecting. Does it mean you have to go out there and really blame them outwardly? No, that is not the invitation. The invitation is not to go out there and just like blame them and resent them. The invitation is really to be in the presence. There is this resentment that is coming up. And where is that resentment coming from? It was already stored in your body, in your emotional body. It was already here. Your caregivers had already done something that created resentment that was just unaddressed. And a huge part of doing shadow work is purging. When you tap into this, you are literally purging. You are purging the resentment. When you allow yourself to be in the presence of the resentment, you are purging it. You are literally purging it. And very often, what people realize after they give themselves permission to let to be in the presence of the anger, to feel it without pushing it away, to really feel it, to feel the resentment without holding it back. It's like you need to become this open space for the feeling to shift and move through you. When you do that, you open up for more compassion. It is very hard for you to experience compassion for somebody that you are holding resentment in your body against. It is really hard to tap into compassion when you are holding on to so much resentment. But when you allow yourself to process the resentment, and really to step in the space, it is, this resentment doesn't make me unworthy. It doesn't make me a bad son. It doesn't make me a bad daughter. There were just expectations that were disappointed, that were never met. And just understanding and feeling it, and understanding and feeling it allows you to step in a space where you can actually open up for more compassion for them. So I totally understand the question. And it's not about going out there to lash out at anyone, you know. It's really about stepping into the presence of the emotion so that you can literally create space for a new experience of that relationship. So, um, now I hope I did. You can give me an example of safety affirmation. Now, who else did I forget? Those are, who else did I forget? Would you say the only shadow work? I tend not to believe in myself, and I feel that I am not worth it when I am in a job or in a room with important people. What would you do in such situation? Affirmations? Hmm, it's a really beautiful question. And here I think I see a mirror there. I'm not sure if this is true, and you would tell me, Caroline, if this is what is happening for you. Um, Very often when we see ourselves in places where we tend to attract these amazing people, important people, big people that are doing so many great things, there is a mirror of disbelief here. And it can even happen to be envy that is activated. And very often what happens is what you see is available within you and you haven't fully claimed it. There is something that I want to say about what I call compassionate action. Compassionate action looks like, in my experience, being at a place where someone seems to be having something that you want, you crave. Maybe I want their confidence. I want the way they are standing in the power. Compassionate action looks like being in this position and appreciating the way they are showing up, really appreciating the way they are showing up. Whatever you appreciate in someone else is appreciating within you. And this is what I would invite you to do. It's just like, what do you see in these people that you wish you had? And appreciate that and celebrate that. Whatever you appreciate in them appreciates within you. And this is one way you can begin to slowly cultivate the feeling, the experience. Wow, this person is so confident. And just like, I appreciate the way they are able to stand in their power. It takes you to tap a little bit into that energy in order to fully appreciate it. And as you're appreciating it, it's appreciating within you. And this is something that I've experienced literally in my own life. When I used to be at a place where I wanted to do the work that I was doing, the work that I am doing now, sorry. I wanted to do the work that I am doing now. And I would be in the presence of other great coaches, other great transformational coaches. And I was just like, wow, this person can shift me like this. And this is crazy. And I used to be at a place where I would just like see even more what I don't have or what I didn't have. That was an initial perspective. But when I began to shift and really appreciate it and really ask myself, how can I begin to cultivate this kind of feeling, this kind of trust? This is how things really began to shift for me. And I allowed myself to embody that energy a little bit more. So, this is something that I would invite you to do. You just dive into that energy of appreciation. Would you say to only do shadow work when we are being triggered, or is this something that should be done on a weekly or daily basis? Shadow work can be very, especially when it's done in depth, it can be very challenging. So I'm inviting you to. Your life is not about just like diving in the shadow and and being stuck in the shadow. It's something that you can do has, and here is the point that is very important. You don't need to dig for shadows. They show up. When you begin to go, when you begin, I'm going to give you an example. When you begin to step in a place, let's say you tomorrow you choose to be a speaker. That's what lights your, turns your light on. All the shadows that are associated with you not being seen, associated with you being confident, with you speaking, they are going to show up. So you can actually keep having your focus on what you want to create, what you want to manifest, what you want to experience. And when the shadow shows up, then boom, you dive into it. Then you dive into it. But consciously digging the dirt and just like, what other shadow can I can I integrate here? Maybe that's not really what I would suggest. When the trigger comes up, address it. When you begin to dive into a new project, a new relationship, and then self-sabotaging issues show up, address it. When you begin to feel powerless for, because of something that happened, there is a shadow that is showing up there, address it. When you go through life, you create your life, you try to tap into your joy. The reason why you are here is because you want to manifest, you want to experience stuff. So go and try to experience these things. And when a shadow shows up, don't run. That is just the invitation. When the pattern shows up that is really standing in your way, don't run. There you do the shadow work. This is where you do the shadow work. Go ahead and create what you want to create. And when something is showing up, then you can dive into it. That's the best way I can put it. And really not turning into someone that is just trying to dig holes everywhere and to see, okay, is there shadow here or is there shadow here? Because they want to work with you. Your shadow wants to work with you. Your shadow wants to work with you. I hope this helps. Um, Now, let me dive into a few. We have Chloe, thank you. I'm glad the answer really helped you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, resentment is really a big thing. Xavier, do we do people treat us bad because they see something they don't have then? That's really an interesting question. And from the get-go, I would be telling you that I would be lying if I told you that I know all the reasons why people treat us poorly. That would be a flat out lie. If I stood up here and I would tell you all the reasons why people treat us poorly. Now, what feels genuine to me is every time somebody is treating us, every time I'll put that quote unquote. Very often, when people treat us poorly, they happen to see something in us that makes them feel unsafe. They happen to see something in us that makes them feel unsafe. They happen to see, they happen to actually maybe be triggered by us, and this is something that is happening all the time. That's the best way I can put it. But telling you that I would know the reasons why people are treating us poorly, that would be a flat out lie. But my guess is very often the way they are showing up is because they saw something that didn't make them feel very right within themselves. Whew. Um, just so many beautiful reflection. Thank you so much for everyone that showed up here, and thank you so much for all of your questions. To everybody that showed up here. Now, if some of you would like to do the work a little bit deeper, um, what you can receive, I I have a membership community where you can dive deeper into the work. It's called the Inner Alchemist Circle. And that's a place of healing, that's a place of transformation, that's a place where we really dive deeper into a specific theme monthly. And you can really, if doing more of this work is calling you, you can literally go check this out. And for all the people of the Happiness Planner, I give you a 20% discount for life on the membership to join the membership. So if this is something that is really calling for you, if this is something that is really interesting for you, I hope we can put the link somewhere for you to go do it. You can check out my website, xavierdagba.com. You're gonna see a banner there where you can learn more about the Inner Alchemist Circle, which is a place where we dive deeper into shadow work, we dive deeper into all of what I just shared with you here and more. And I just wanted to also acknowledge all of you for being here, for taking your time, all the beautiful people, Chloe, Deborah, Caroline, for all your questions. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to the Happiness Planner to just put it together for people to come share the little experience that they have. And thank you for taking the time to just play with me and to talk to me and to be with me here. So I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you so much. And yes, it was a pleasure to be here with everyone.